Kita! Come here, girl.
There is no spoon. There is no spoon.
There is no spoon. There is no spoon.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon. There is no spoon.
A thumbnail-sized little devil frog must return to feed on the forest floor, leaving her young exposed to the predators that hunt around bromeliad pools. But Mum has a plan. She gorges on tiny, poisonous ants. But this ingenious frog can assimilate ant toxins into a much more potent compound, making her skin fatal to the touch. Now she needs to pass her poison power to her young. In each pool, she lays a single unfertilized egg, laced with neurotoxins. And as the tadpoles eat, poison releases from the egg and floods the nursery pool.
If you want to be successful in this world, you have to develop your own idiot detection system. The best way to spot an idiot: look for the person who is cruel. Let me explain. When we see someone who doesn't look like us, or sound like us, or act like us, or love like us, or live like us, the first thought that crosses almost everyone's brain is rooted in either fear or judgment, or both. That's evolution. We survived as a species by being suspicious of things that we aren't familiar with. In order to be kind, we have to shut down that animal instinct and force our brain to travel a different pathway. Empathy and compassion are evolved states of being. They require the mental capacity to step past our most primal urges.
Just joking. That is the way to get 10 million views on your first video, though, or on your little short. Yeah. Anyway, I was making fun of the Colleen Ballinger thing. I lost my pick, so I couldn't even play it like I was going to. I can actually play that mandolin. Maybe I'll play it at the end of the show for you. I can actually play it. I lost my pick, so I just had to improvise and try to do it with my thumb. But mandolins don't respond to thumb picking as well as a ukulele does. Ukuleles have plastic strings for a reason. There's guitars that have plastic strings that are built for that as well. Yeah, but yes, I am. I spent my 20s as a working musician. I play several instruments, including the ukulele, but I don't have a ukulele currently. I actually prefer the baritone ukulele to the little soprano ones myself, but that's because I like it because it's laid out just like a guitar. Anyway, good to see everybody this morning. We are live from the Hive. Hello, hello. Thank you all for popping in. We already got like a dozen people already watching, and I've only been going a few minutes. I know my intro stuff is a little long, but I like to allow plenty of time, about 5 to 10 minutes of time for me to do my passionate stuff, which is editing little videos and clips and stuff just for fun. So thank you for tolerating that if you're not here for it. But I have little segments in between my parts of my show. I'm just explaining this now because I've been having a lot of people popping in or leaving or saying goodbye when one segment's over. So the show goes on Live from the Hive, okay, at 9:45 generally, sometime between 9:45 and 9:50 usually. We do Cryptic Corner, and that usually runs about an hour. It can go, it can be as quick as a half an hour depending on the topic. Today's topic's kind of going to be quick because there's only a short little video we're going to review. But and then from there we go to Creation Watch, which is generally the longest segment of the show. Okay, I divide them up and I say goodbye between the segments because if I don't, then I just want to make my segments individual shows themselves, which I then premiere about a week to 2 weeks later, depending on the topic, right? So I break my show up to make it more bite-sized segments that are half an hour to an hour long, and that makes them easier to digest. And then people can pick and choose what type of my content that they like, and that way I can choose which type of content to focus most of my energy on, right? So like if I'm digging Cryptic Corner and nobody else is digging Cryptic Corner, maybe I shouldn't be spotlighting Cryptic Corner so much. If everybody's loving Creation Watch and I'm like not giving it enough spotlight, I need to know about it. If you all are here for the science stuff, which everybody says they're here for the science stuff, but I'll tell you, my science videos do not do well in the algorithm. They are my Monday shows, and again, they're not premieres. I don't premiere them because they're generally a little bit shorter. They're less than a half an hour usually. But I don't premiere them. They're on Monday night. I release them, and they are always the bottom. In the bottom 3 spaces of viewership. So I'm using this structure to help you guys help me make the content that you want to see. So yes, definitely engage. If you like this type of video, that type of video, that segment, let me know. Do not leave when Cryptic Corner is over because there's more show to come, right? Do not leave when Creation Watch is over because there's more show to come. When I say remember to be kind, take care, and see you next time, I'm talking to that premiere audience, not to my live audience. My live audience, you're hopefully here for the long ride, which is about a 2.5 hour show. So, I mean, I don't expect everybody to stick around for the whole thing, but definitely if it's a segment you like, let me know via the premieres, not via the Live from the Hive, okay? Anyway, and also Vandalia 1998 is in the live chat. We are going to be talking about bees later, so stick around for that as well. Oh All right, so yeah, you can cover your baby with poison, but I wouldn't put it on any part of the baby that the baby can get their mouth on. Right? Babies tend to wallow around. We don't want to make our babies poisonous. All right, so with that being said, who is ready to move into some cryptic corner? I know I am. Let's do it. Let's make it happen right now. I'll see you guys over there. Welcome to a Cryptic Corner, my beauties and bees, the place where we explore the unexplained, the supernatural, the paranormal and hidden, the mysterious, the alien, the accursed, and the forbidden. I am your host, Bumblebee, and thank you guys for joining me tonight for a little episode of Cryptic Corner, and thank you to my lovely live from the Hive viewers over here watching us on Saturday morning. You too can be part of this little elite crowd by joining us here on YouTube every Saturday morning at 9:30 a.m. I'm sticking the thumbtack in that time. I don't like doing the later times, so we will continue on the time that I've always had. It's a good time slot. I like it. It gives me stuff to work with, and it gives me flexibility on my weekends. So we're going to stick with it because I'm going to start doing stuff. Now, it's the middle of summer, and I haven't done anything yet this summer. I'm about to turn 40. So if you're watching this on Friday, I might already be 40 because I am going to be... How many days do I have left? I've got 6 days. 6 days left in my 30s. So, yeah. All right, so there are some Cryptic Corner points I want to touch on here. We have been doing more cryptic community stuff. I did hang out with Sasquatch Secrets, Nikki over there. She's a friend of mine, pretty cool. We hung out and did the Independence Day Bigfoot video. That was fun. I mirrored it on my channel if you haven't watched it. I also did just a couple days ago. So I did the Legend of Boggy Creek with Captive Desk Dave. So if you didn't check that out, we cover that little gem of a mockumentary. And then this last week on the 5th, I did a review of the 75 years later Roswell crash. Well, as this is Roswell week, we are going to be revisiting that location today. But please remember to check out the other great things coming out of the Cryptic Corner, because the Cryptic Review is a new segment where I have a guest on and we review a video or documentary. I hope to do more of that in the future. So, and also, again, branching out into the cryptozoological community. I am probably going to make, now that the Threads is a thing, I'm probably going to make Cryptic Corner its own thread account and just post cryptozoology and that kind of stuff over there. So you can follow both me, Bumblebee, and you'll be able to follow Cryptic Corner as a separate entity where we specialize in busting cryptozoology and stuff like that. So keep your eyes out for that as well. I may make a Twitter account for it. Right now, Twitter's on fire, and the guy running it's like, oh, it's supposed to be on fire, instead of trying to put it out. He's like, this is how it's supposed to be, which is disgusting. So, yeah, Threads dropped. Last I checked, 70 million people had downloaded it. And that was yesterday morning. I haven't looked again, but I'm on there right now already as HiveSci, HIVESCI. Follow me on Threads. I haven't posted much. I've just buzzed in and mentioned that I'm on Threads, and Stephanie Helms is on there with her. Stephanie's there. Stephanie sent me a friend's request or what have you. There's no private messaging system yet. So anyway, this is off topic for Cryptic Corner, but Cryptic Corner will begin to have its own social media presence as well. It'll help me navigate the cryptic community a little bit better, I think. But we'll see. Anyway, on to the topic. So, recently, there's been claims of a second crash site, a second debris field, if you will, from the Roswell incident, based on the Richards Ranch report. So let's pop over and first things first. Yeah, we're gonna scope out the region. So that will be. Wait a second, where are we? There you are. Okay, that'll be the primary focus. So we're in, the south central New Mexico, right? Like this area here. And these are our sites. I've marked them as favorites on the map so that we can keep track of them. All right. So there's the Richards Ranch. And then over here are a couple of markers for the crash site. This is the longitude-latitude marker. It doesn't necessarily look like a debris field to me. But maybe. And then you have this one, which is the public access one or what have you. And there's actually, you can actually drop down into this one. This is the one that me and Sidney Davis Jr. Looked at. And it talks about the unidentified crash or sighting here. And there's a pillar of rocks. I don't know why they built a pillar instead of building a circle. I think a circle would go more with the... But what do I know? I'm not commemorating the crash. These guys are. So someone did spend some money on this though, because if you've ever had to finance a grave marker for a loved one, you know how expensive these big blocks of stone are. Yeah. But it's pretty wide open and barren here. Now, if the type of weather balloon that is generally presented as the one that was responsible for the Roswell crash has like a chain of singular balloons and with mylar and reflective tails and stuff hanging down from them, and there's a chain of them that they released. They were trying to create like a web up there to listen for Soviet bomb test, and see if it was basically a test to see if that would be a viable option. And I think it was a failure, and then nobody was supposed to know about it. But yeah, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's an interview here that I want to dive into. So, without further ado, let's let these guys talk.
I want to start with you, Don, and dive right in. What can you tell us, Don, about this second debris field, where it is in proximity to the first debris field that was found, and if there's any new information involving the second debris field?
Well,
Excuse me.
It's actually a impact site. That's in fact what we call it. The remains
Went down
of
the
a
wrong way.
egg-shaped pod about the size of a Volkswagen.
Wait a second.
Impact site. That's in fact what we call
involving the second debris field?
Well, it's actually a impact site. That's in fact.
So he says it's not a debris field, it's impact site, which is interesting and should show up more on the map, right? He's going to try to give us the location, though. We're going to try to find it.
What we call it. The remains of a egg-shaped pod about the size of a Volkswagen Beetle, based on all the eyewitness accounts, including military and civilian, describe this location about 35 to 40 miles north of Roswell. And it's where this pod
Always appreciate you popping in, Ring.
and its crew, a number of bodies, and a survivor based on, again, first-hand testimony were recovered back at the time.
No, I will not be starting my own separate music channel. I've had several music channels. If you knew how to look, you could probably find some of my music videos. I didn't, not me doing it. It was just me. Basically, I had a channel that I practiced music on, that and wrote songs on and played silly stuff. Yeah.
Time of the incident.
Ben, when you go out to these sites, when you went out to this second debris field, as it's been called, I mean, what can you do now since it's been so long? How do the metal detectors work? Sort of walk us through the process when you and the other investigators go out there.
Well, it's actually been really exciting for us because I've been out now about 3 or 4 times to the site, which is near Corona. That's about 2.5 hours out from Roswell, the actual, what we call the debris field. The new site, though, like Don says, is kind of the impact site.
So Corona, hold on. We're going to go back to the map. So Corona is a little town, and I mean little town. Which way's up? There we go. A little town this way. I think that's too far. Where are you, Corona? Why are you not showing up on my map? There it is, Corona. Little tiny town. We can drop down in there real quick, just to give you a kind of a look at where we're, like a really stereotypical southwestern town, right? It's got all the little stops along the highway that you expect. There's businesses up here. Yeah, I think that was some businesses and things like this. I don't know if you've ever take a Southwest road trip. This is the kind of stuff that you stop at. They'll have like souvenirs and stuff. Now Roswell itself has a lot of souvenir shops and things like that too. But this place doesn't generally attract UFO attention. And because this place was actually closer, allegedly, to the crash site, right? But, which tells me, because Roswell, the reason Roswell got tied into it is because Roswell had the Air Force Base, right? But the second crash site is somewhere in this region right here. We're going to let these guys keep talking.
It's only about 40 minutes outside the city, and we go out there, we try to systematically, see from Corona in towards town what kind of direction it may have been going, and therefore where we want to focus on the scope of the ground search. We had a backhoe, we had several people doing kind of grid searches. We don't even know if this material is metallic. So that's a big problem, right?
Sorry,
so
the fan was making my eyes water.
It's anomalous. We take that, we mark it just like you'd be, doing a crime scene investigation, and then we go get it analyzed to see if anything, shows up that would be not even just necessarily exotic material, but something that could have been made here, but seems.
So, I mean, and that looks pretty much like the whole area right there. There's miles and miles and miles of this. What they're showing right here in this image. So it's hard to pin down what they're talking about. When he's talking about an impact site, I would expect there to be some kind of disturbed Earth, right? There's some kind of disturbed patch of desert with, the soil turned up. But also, it's been 75 years ago, so
Out of place. I mean, we're looking at every possible option right now.
Don, has anything of interest been found out there? I mean, I would have to think if the reports are true that something crashed out there and the government was involved, I would have assumed that they would have gotten everything back then. I mean, are there still items to be found, do you think?
Well, we would not be wasting time if we didn't feel that we could make at least certain confirmations. We certainly have plans to return back to the debris field.
let's see. Lead investigator, International UFO Museum and Research Center, former co-director J. Allen Hynek, Center of UFO Studies, American representative, International Coalition for Extraterrestrial Research. So this is Donald Schmidt. I'm gonna let him keep talking over here. I'm gonna pull
and
something
mainly
up.
because there were traces, elements, artifacts that were discovered for decades thereafter. And that was an area that covered almost a mile long in scope. And as a result, as any crash investigator would tell you, that there's absolutely no way that they could possibly recover every last piece of evidence. And so with the constant wind and rain erosion, that things come to the surface. And as a result, the Air Force has been out there for decades as well. In fact, the ranchers would confirm that they have been catching Air Force officers out there, even into recent times, still searching and making sure that every last piece was recovered.
Ben, I would imagine a lot of the people who may have been witnesses back in the 40s have now...
Now, I will say that everything I've looked up about plane crashes and things like that, that's true. That that a debris field from an impact crash, it's scattered over generally a broad area, and some of it is dug and buried into the earth. It doesn't just scatter into the air, it also scatters into the ground, even though it doesn't scatter so far, and every piece that goes into the air has potential to bury itself or embed itself in the earth too. It gets pretty crazy the way things get thrown, and especially if there's explosions involved and decompression involved. But carry on.
Passed away because it's been so long. Is there anyone still alive? I mean, is someone documenting what they said? Because obviously it's going to be more difficult to investigate now without, people who survived.
Well, that's a great question. In fact, what I guess you could say kind of sold me on Roswell that something happened here was the first book that I ever read that was authored by Don here. And when I saw the number...
I think that's probably the book Witness to Roswell, where he had like interviews and testimonies of all the people that were alive around that time and involved in some way, which would be like all the people of Corona, if you think about it, because little town, less than 100 people, and they actually brought the alleged craft to Corona, to a ranch, they brought it into town from the Richards Ranch people did. So, I don't know. That you think everybody that lived in that town would have had something to say about it.
Number of witnesses, hundreds, both firsthand and secondhand, that came forward. I wanted to know, is there anyone still alive I could talk to? And I had the chance to interview someone who was a child at the time who handled the material. Her dad was with the fire department, brought it home.
And we did watch that interview with her on the 5th. What day of the week was that? I keep just saying the 5th. That was on Wednesday. Yeah. So we watched the interview with her, the daughter of this the farmer or rancher or whatever that found this stuff, and she insisted that she got to hold it, and they threatened her with death it was pretty wild. It's all aliens though. Yeah.
She handled it there at the kitchen table, And in a matter of time, the military police came over and actually threatened her with her life. And when she retold this story to me, she's now passed, but she was in tears, and you could see the emotion that she legitimately felt, that she thought she was going to be removed from her family and killed if she ever talked about this. So I had another witness, the son.
The interview that we watched was from like the 80s, I think, or maybe the 90s, but she was a lot younger at that point, but she did get all emotional about it. I feel like, yeah, she did have some sort of experience, right? And they did threaten her or scare her. They did traumatize this poor woman or poor child at the time just for having said she held some weird material. Yeah.
Of someone who, again, problem is they passed away, but they have affidavits from so many of these people whose father was part of what they call the Air War College that happened the next spring, and he was invited out to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where we know a lot of this material went. Anyways, he handled the debris from Roswell and told his sons right before he passed.
I want to know what this Laffy Taffy looking stuff that they're rolling out here is. That's crazy. Looks like slime. It's the blob.
Away that he saw bodies, and one of them actually was still alive. It was not human-like, but not human. And they were asked to kind of weigh in on what they should do with the situation. So I think when you put all these together, it makes a really good case that why would people, even though they're past now, on their deathbeds, make these confessions to their own children, and some of them have so much emotion and traumatized by it yet, today.
When you talk about bodies, I mean, it's hard to process. It's honestly hard to believe. But I go back to David Grush, the whistleblower who we interviewed here on News Nation, who is a high-level intelligence officer, had top security clearance. It's now been weeks. No one has discredited him. There are now official investigations in Congress. We had Senator Rubio just a few nights ago saying that other whistleblowers with firsthand knowledge of these kinds of incidents have come forward. I'm curious, Don, because you've been doing this a long time. Do you think this is a moment that we're in? I mean, do you think that we're actually going to start to get real concrete information from the government about this stuff?
My biggest regret when we worked with the late Congressman Stephen Schiff of New Mexico back in the early to mid-90s, when a good many of the first 10 witnesses were still with us here at Roswell. And we couldn't.
And that's when we saw a lot of the interviews that you see and that are used in these documentaries, and we're going to pop over and watch a little bit of one here in a second. But when you get into the interviews and stuff, most of those are from the same period in the 90s.
Get Washington to pay any attention. And how unfortunate that all those witnesses are now long gone. And so we missed a golden opportunity, because Roswell's the one case, not only being the granddaddy of them all, the fact that it's beyond just a sighting or gun camera footage or a landing where it's something very fleeting. With Roswell, it's clearly a case of show us the bodies. And
I'm interested in this mystery metal. The bodies are quite interesting, but this mystery metal is kind of the crux of this of the claim here, because it's been 75 years. Why haven't we seen it being utilized or being replicated or anything, or any new information about it and its properties? Why?
And these witnesses are gone. So we're having to rely on the very arbiters of the cover-up, and that being the Pentagon, to now roll over and say, well, now we're going to finally cooperate. When they have been the ones that have been running out the clock, stalling for time all these decades. And I can't emphasize enough, we need to keep in mind that the Pentagon is up to 4 official explanations regarding Roswell. 4. I mean,
that is true too. They're like, we found a UFO. They're like, nope, it was a weather balloon. And they're like, oh, it was a secret test. And then I don't know if that's recounting. They just go into further details about what kind of balloon it was. It wasn't exactly a weather balloon because it wasn't testing the weather, was it? It was searching for Soviet bomb tests in the atmosphere.
I mean, none of us could get away with that in any other circumstances, but here, once again, the government, well, what do we expect? But we have to focus on where all the eyewitnesses have taken us, and they have taken us to that very first explanation, and that was that this was the recovery of an actual flying saucer.
Ben, you know, the festival is this weekend. A lot of it seems like fun and games, and there's the funny cartoons, and people dress up and all that, and they have fun with it. I mean, do you think that that confuses?
I kind of wish I could go to one of those festivals sometime. We should plan an outing for the Hive. We'll all go to Roswell and meet up at the festival.
Uses people because it sort of makes it into a game. When at the same time, you know, we hear from Don and now we hear from the whistleblower and even Marco Rubio and other lawmakers who are trying to take this matter seriously. Do you think the festival in any way sort of gets in the way of that?
It's kind of a double-edged sword, to be honest, Brian. It's because without that, there may not be an interest at all for people to come and to pick up a book and actually read about it. But at the same time, the legitimate research, I find that, especially, you know, the generations today, they browse or graze information. They don't really dive into it. And that is frustrating because, like I said, what introduced me to it
I don't know. I think it's always been that way. People have always just read the headlines on big stories and just... What would I dress up as if I went to the festival? I might get like one of those big beehive haircuts and do like the Mars Attacks 1950s where they're pretending to be an alien.
reading a book and reading the actual witness testimonies. And if you put that together, I think it's overwhelming for people to just say it was something prosaic. So I embrace both of it. I like having fun, you know, the costumes and everything, but I think you're seeing that tone sort of change, especially with the media now and the little jokes and the jabs about little green, you know, men and things like that. A lot of that might be psychologically based on fear, you know, and that we just are
Nope, they're trying to prime us to be yeah, to be ready for the alien invasion, to prime our brains for our upcoming alien overlords, guys.
comfortable. And now that this is starting to come to light, how do we deal with this, you know, what I call a global reality compromising moment? You know, we might start seeing some things in people's lives have to change, and how do you deal with that? So it's a long conversation, but I think it's necessary because humor, you know, can help us get through that.
Yeah, it certainly seems like we're entering a more sort of serious time and serious phase of all of this. Ben and Don, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I know it's a busy time of the year there, and you guys were busy today investigating, so thank you for making time for us tonight.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Brian.
Hey, thank you for watching.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, there's Chris Cuomo. Whatevs. We're going to close that out. And then we are going to pull this up. And we're going to watch just a couple minutes of this.
Because there've been a few.
30 saucers have been sighted and are still unexplained. The following proposition could be established. There actually have been and may now be present in the Earth's atmosphere strange aerial objects. Some are of a geometric order. Others can only be described as brilliant light sources. Their form cannot be determined.
He said the crash was like the flying saucers that they have talked about, because there've been a few comments on the news about flying saucers.
Yeah, it would be fun if we all showed up there with big giant beehive haircuts. People would be like, "What the hell?" It's like, yeah, well, because it's 1947. You're calling back to 1947. Come on now.
And he said it was one of the flying saucers crashed. And I don't think really Mother believed him at first. And he said, "No, he said, I mean it. We went out there early today," which I don't know what time that was, but early to him could have meant they left before dark. And he said when they got there, they could see that there were 2 bodies that were laying on the ground outside of this craft, and that there was one, what he called little person. And he said there's one little person that was walking around, and he said they were still alive. So she asked him, you know, what do they look like? Do they look like us? And he said they were very small, about the size of a small 10-year-old child.
So we're talking like little bitty, like this. Not like a 10-year-old child. I guess that varies though, because there's like adults that are smaller than some 10-year-olds. Like my son was, when he was 10, he was taller than my ex-wife. I think my daughter was too.
But the head looked like the little insect that we played with or that we saw around our house called Child of the Earth. We all knew what that looked like, so nobody asked any questions on that. We assumed that meant that the head was too large for the body.
Jerusalem cricket. I had one of those not too long ago. They're really cool. They can get like huge, about the size of a potato. They're some of the biggest insects in the world. But yeah, Child of the Earth is what they're called by locals, or potato bugs sometimes. But yeah, their head is like massive compared to the rest of the body.
And it had no hair, and it would have large eyes. We knew that because that's what the Child of the Earth insect looks like. He said they looked quite a bit like us. He said they were a lot smaller than we are. Because when he said a small 10-year-old child, I knew he meant smaller than I was. And I wasn't very big at 12 years old. I was a little small for my age.
Child of the Earth. It's an interesting name for him, though.
And he said that the other 2 were dead and that this one that was alive was very sad. But he emphasized and he kept saying, there's no need for us to be afraid. They're not here to hurt us. And he said, we couldn't help them. And he was more upset over the fact that they couldn't help this
Hi, Derek.
person.
Thanks for joining us.
And that's something he really felt badly. That
Doing some
he couldn't
Roswell.
help this one that was alive.
See, yeah, what if they're not extraterrestrial? What if they're paraterrestrial, right? What if they're from a different wavelength and they crashed into our wavelengths of existence, but they're from Earth too, so they're actually our children of the Earth. Full circle. Yeah.
He said you could feel the hurt from this little person that was so saddened by the death of the others with him. And apparently they hadn't been there but just a few minutes, and he said the military came up and they made them leave.
Take the little person with you.
So,
hide him. That'd be a good movie. Let's make a movie about the people taking the little person with them and hiding it. And I guess that's kind of what E.T. is, though, right? This is kind of like the basis for the E.T. story, you know. But it didn't crash, though. He was left behind because the government crashed the party. But I think that some of the narrative, some of the framework of the story in E.T. is based around the Roswell incident. Maybe a few others as well, like the Flatwood Monster and things like that, but mostly Roswell. There's also the Aurora, Texas sighting. So in Aurora, Texas, there was a crash and there was a pilot, like they're talking about here, and then they say that the pilot died and they buried him. They buried him in his ship too. Isn't that wild? And like, oh, we forgot where we buried him after that. Weird. Nice cover up, right? I don't know. Some of these actions that were taken by these groups at the time don't make any sense to me.
They went back to the fire station, and he said there had not been a grass fire, which would have been their purpose for going. And they thought there could have been if it had been a normal plane crash. I don't think Mother really wanted to believe it at first. And he talked about how could we be so smug to think that we were the only ones that God could create.
I don't know about God creating them, but I am thinking that it's pretty smug to think that we would be the only organisms that evolved in this galaxy. Tsunami said I would dress like Lucy in that episode where her and Ethel get paid to dress up like aliens and go to the Empire State Building. Yeah. Oh, that's a callback to Nick at Night for me, Tsunami. I used to have a little black and white TV in my bedroom when I was like 5, and I would lay in there and watch Nick at Night while I played with my Ninja Turtles. And it'd be the Honeymooners and I Love Lucy and all that old black and white stuff. Oh, that's a callback. There's the temptation to dress up like Leela. I have the hair. I have the whole hair thing going to dress up like Taranga Leela from Futurama. Who wants to be Fry if I'm Leela?
Could create this earth, he could create a lot of others too.
We'll need a bender too.
So that was just a conversation over dinner that night. And then there wasn't too much said about it for the next couple of days.
I tell you what, if we had gotten that when I was a kid, I would have been bouncing off the walls with questions. I guess maybe these kids didn't, like, oh, okay, aliens, sure. Dad knows what he's talking about. I'd have been like, oh my gosh, I want to go see him. Can we go see him?
Then I was at the fire station one afternoon because I'd gotten sick. I had to see the doctor, and we only had one vehicle. So I went back to work with Daddy. He came home at noon and picked me up on his lunch. And I had gone to the doctor and was sitting in the kitchen part of the fire station, and I was eating a glass of ice chips. And a state policeman came in, and he yelled at Daddy. He said, "Hey, Dan, come over here." He said, "Get all the guys. I want to show you guys something."
The mystery medal.
The policeman reached into his pocket. And he said, "I don't think you guys got to see anything like this the other day." And he pulled his hand out of his pocket, and it was closed up. He opened his hand over the table and dropped a piece of material that, when it hit the table, it was all wadded up when it left his hand, and when it hit the table, it spread out like it was water.
Yeah, I want this super mystery medal.
They were asking him, how'd you get by with this? And he said, well, he had helped with some of the pickup of debris, and he had managed to sneak that one piece in his pocket. He said, I don't know how long I'll get to keep this before I get caught. Because he said, everybody they catch, they're taking away whatever they've got.
Last count, I had...
All right, yeah. So that was the part of the interview we didn't get to see the other night when we were looking at the interviews. I couldn't find that part where she's talking about how what the alien looked like. But yeah, child of the earth, like a Jerusalem cricket. I should see if Bugs in Cyberspace has more Jerusalem crickets. So I'm thinking that somewhere along 247 here, somewhere in this space, is the second crash site that they talk about. Because these people were from Corona. Right? Roswell's further away. Roswell's down here. Now, Roswell has the Air Force Base. It's now called Roswell Air Center, but this is the Air Force Base. We did notice that all the fields out here are circles, which is really weird, but I don't know. And what's the Roswell welcome sign? Does it have a UFO? Yeah. Let's go down and look. Yep, got UFOs and broken down vehicles and yeah. All right. Anyway, so that was Cryptic Corner for today. Talking about the Roswell crash site, the second Roswell crash site, and what was seen at this site. And that was some weird little alien dudes with big giant heads. So, two dead, one alive, and very sad. And it sounds like maybe they're projecting emotions into the audience. I don't know. To the people that were coming to, that were responding to the crash. Anyway, that's it for Cryptic Corner. My life in the Hive audience, remember to stick around. But to my Cryptic Corner audience watching this on the premiere on Friday night, thank you so much for popping in. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time. All right, and to my Live from the Hive audience, don't go anywhere. We will be back with more show because we got some Creation Watch coming up, and you are not going to want to miss this. I'm telling you, you're not going to want to miss this. And yes, there is a shark topic on the board, so don't you worry your pretty little head, Aunt Jer. We will absolutely have sharks. Every Live from the Hive this month will have sharks. I promise. Every single episode will have some kind of sharks. Last week we had Megalodon and new information on it. This week, you'll just have to wait till the end of the show to see. But yeah, we will have plenty of shark info for you. All right, I will see you guys in Creation Watch.
So this is one of those deities, or maybe deities that will come up an awful lot in discussions between atheists and skeptics and Christians, because there's a lot of justification for some of the more awful things, particularly in the Old Testament, that Christians will use, and Moloch or Molech will come up in that. So, of course, whenever you hear about things like the flood, or you hear about genocide, the first almost you're either going to hear hyperbole is the first word that you're going to hear, or you're going to hear the Canaanites and how awful they were. And the main thing that people go to when they talk about how awful the Canaanites were is child sacrifice, which, from a narrative standpoint, from reading through the Hebrew Bible, sure, and I think that's fine. It's problematic when you think about it more historically, and so that's sort of where this discussion goes. So Molech is supposed to be the deity that you always hear about, the statue that gets heated up and the child is placed on it and sacrificed and screams, and of course these are later stories, but the problem I think that we have is looking at the data outside of the Hebrew Bible, and what does that tell us? So without going into a lot of detail here, if people are interested, they should definitely pick up the book, watch that video.
That interview was great, by the way. I mean, it changed my whole view on the way that these deities are depicted. So thanks for doing that too. And kind of.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate that. I was really excited to have him on. Just as a side note, Francesca Stavrakopoulou has also worked on this quite a bit, so people could check her work out as well. But the tension is that you have these later. We're often, I think, referencing in modern culture, we're referencing later stories, later depictions that are discussing this phenomenon that we see in the Hebrew Bible. And so trying to get back at what was the reality like on the ground is more difficult. So we do seem to have evidence from further west, that there was child sacrifice going on. We don't really have any from the coast, from the Phoenician coast. We don't really have much, if anything, from Canaan proper about child sacrifice. We just have, not that means we didn't have it. They didn't have it going on, but looking at, is this an actual deity? This is the one of the things that he was trying to address. Was this an actual deity? And I think the complicating factor is that the way that the word is written, MLK, Mem Lamed Kaf, and the preposition that's used in front of it in the Hebrew, it's very likely that this is a particular type of sacrifice. So as an MLK sacrifice, like a whole burnt offering is another type of sacrifice, or a peace offering or whatever.
Do you think
this is another?
Sorry. Do you think this interpretation it came from when they translated the Old Testament to Greek? Is that when this meaning was lost? Is that where we're looking at, or would it be older than that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, part of the problem, of course, is that the Hebrew Bible didn't originally have vowels, so trying to come at a consonantal text and assign meaning to it is more complicated when you don't have vowels. So the Masoretes, the people that later copied the text, the Masoretic text that we have, they put all this vocalization system in. But I think that I'm more persuaded by it being a type of sacrifice. What's interesting, as opposed to a deity, what's interesting about it is that and I think that most people balk at, perhaps, is that you have Yahweh receiving these child sacrifices. Yeah. And you get sort of hints of it in the Hebrew Bible, the story of Jephthah, for example. And the fact that they're efficacious is also interesting. So you have a foreign deity in the Hebrew Bible that offers his oldest son as a sacrifice, and it works. That's what's crazy about it. Like, it works. Power goes out from the city and just repels Israel.
So
and
validates I hear what you're saying there. Yeah, which is weird to see something like that in the Bible.
Yeah, there are certain things that I think make the Hebrew Bible a lot of fun to study, because you have things where clearly, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, sorry, but you're clearly fine. Later editors are reworking things to try to get their own ideas in, or to sort of streamline, not streamline, but move the text in a direction they want it to go. But because of their convictions, whatever their practices are about maintaining things in the text, they also leave behind sort of traces. So I think Deuteronomy 32, for example, just sort of thinking about deities here, is an interesting example of this, because that's where it talks about El and Yahweh, and like the dividing up of the nations. And I think that in its canonical form, like its final form that we have, actually, I think the text is trying to equate Yahweh with El, right? But the point is, Mark Smith makes a really good argument about this. It's indicating that before, there wasn't this connection made between Yahweh and El, and that these two distinct deities, which of course is what we would expect. And I know we're going to talk about El a little bit, but yeah, I have no idea how I got to where I just was, actually, from where we started. So you guys might have to draw me back in.
Good morning, afternoon, or night, my moth friends. Today I will be addressing a very serious topic to moths, and discrimination against moths. So, you may know that there is only a butterfly emoji, no moth emoji. And this is a very serious topic to moths. If we have a moth emoji, moths and moth fans alike will feel much better and will not be have taken a step closer to not be discriminated against. Butterflies get all the love, and I will now show some moth pictures on screen to show you just how cute moths can really be. Please don't be afraid of moths, like they're just some bug, but think that butterflies are pretty. They get a lot of the attention, and it's really important to us moths that we will get as much as the love that moths and butterflies and everyone has. It is very important to all insects alike. I will put a link in the description for you to sign a petition about adding a moth emoji to get one step closer to moth love throughout the world. Thank you for listening. Goodbye.
All right, hello, and welcome to Creation Watch. Let's have another peek into the wild world of speculative claims about the origin of the universe that don't conform to the current scientific knowledge. We always like to explore some crazy ideas here, just some wild inferences people make from the natural world, and religious bias and priming, conditioning, indoctrinating. People are not always as credulous as they should be, and sometimes they're incredulous about things they shouldn't be. So it's a difficult process to try to break someone free of these ideas. However, they're potentially dangerous, especially when they overflow into our culture and society and legislation and government decision making. And this has been very prevalent in this MAGA movement. There is a religious aspect to it where they think that Donald Trump is a biblical figure. He's a new church father, if you will. He is like on par with Abraham, David, and even Jesus to these people. It gets quite disturbing, but yeah, I don't know. We'll let these MAGA people kind of break things down for you. Let me introduce you to somebody. This, where'd we go? There we are. This is the Now is the Time with Mary Cooley. She refers to herself as doctor. I think she's a doctor of divinity or something like that. But she does interviews with right-wing wackadoos and makes some of the most asinine claims and bizarre implications. There's prophecy, there's biblical interpretation, there's end time revelation going on among these people that none of us are privy to. But this is punctuated here with this Representative Joe Donnell interview more than anything else. We're going to pop in here about 20 minutes into the interview. This is the South Dakota representative discussing about Rushmore. Shoot. Hold on, I got it muted. Just a second. Let's go back up.
Well, and Joe, isn't it true from what I've heard that the rock that they really put Mount Rushmore on with the 4 presidents, wasn't that a very sacred Native American rock?
So if you look at a time-lapse video of the tree growth in over years in the Black Hills, I think you can find it online. But anyway, you'll see a beating human heart. That's what it looks like. And so a
time lapse of the northern hemisphere. It looks like if you take a satellite image of the Earth, a time lapse of it, it'll breathe. It looks like the northern hemisphere breathes with the seasons. It's really cool. But it can be pinned down regionally too.
Ago, the belief was by many of the tribes is that place was the most sacred place of the land because that was the heart of the land. And then if you go about an hour and a half drive from there, you have the geodetic center of North America. And so they knew that, and so center points are very important in God's kingdom. The way that God moves, reclaiming the center, reclaiming the beachhead, and that's what the enemy does. He tries to go into the center of things and wreak havoc. He tries to go into the center of a life. The Holy Spirit goes down into the belly of us, into the center.
So he's talking about that the natives knew that this place in South. I'm not saying they didn't, but he's saying these people knew that the center of the North American continent was in South Dakota. Okay.
Of us, and brings forth living water. And so I would say that
whoa, what was that?
The belly of us, into the center of us, and brings forth living water. And so
that was weird.
I would say that this is just the revelation that I've been working with, is that
so, and just to be clear, revelation is prophecy. This is the prophecies that he as a state representative is using to help him decide how to legislate in his state.
Hills of South Dakota, if God were ever to deal with the amount of witchcraft that's impacting our nation and the things that are happening from that location.
If you didn't hear that,
the amount of witchcraft that's impacting our nation and
the amount of witchcraft that is impacting our nation. So Representative Joe Donnell, who writes legislation for the state of South Dakota, who has holds voting power in the state senate in South Dakota. I think it's state senate, right? Representative Joe Donnell is affirming that witchcraft is channeled through the Black Hills. Let's let him
Black
say
Hills of South Dakota. If God were ever to deal with the amount of witchcraft that's impacting our nation and the things that are happening in that location, we would see a major takeover of righteousness. But
wasn't the guy who helped build that or whatever, I had heard something.
Yeah,
Freemason.
So if you go back and do some history on Mount Rushmore, it actually is a Freemason shrine. It was called a shrine all the way in the back in the newspapers. It was spoken about for what it was. Just like
it is a shrine. It's a shrine to our white culture's dominance over the North American continent. Basically, it's like, hey, people who lived here before, these white guys are your gods now. These 4 white guys. I think 2 of them owned slaves. Yeah. Anyway.
Like Crazy Horse Mountain. The guy who did that was a Mason as well. And so I've been on
the people who carved stone. The people who carved stone were Masons, you say? Is that a fact? Masons carving stone? What's the world coming to? It's witchcraft.
On assignments over there, and one assignment I went on, God told me that he was going to expose the evil eye. So I was like, okay, what does that mean?
So this guy is getting messages from God. I want to recap what that message was.
I've been on assignments over there, and one assignment I went on, God told me that he was going to expose the evil eye. So I was like, okay, what does that mean? So I go over there.
God said he was going to expose the evil eye. The evil eye. That's one of the most common occult beliefs that's like universal around cultures, was that certain magical practitioners had the ability to give the evil eye. And that would put a curse upon you. Yeah.
And I start walking, and I start finding all these stakes, these engineering stakes in the ground with the evil eye on them, with a triangle. And I was like,
so you actually saw these wood stakes that were
no, they're metal stakes. They're metal.
Okay.
They're those engineering, the top of the engineering stake.
Okay.
And then.
So he's talking about the symbol on the head, like the head of a nail, the head of the spike. The stakes that were used had a Mason symbol on it, because stone working was done by Masons. But conspiracy.
And as I began to do my research more, I realized that it was set up to.
Clasia, I want to be your favorite pink-haired nutter butter.
To enshrine democracy or the Declaration of Independence. It was to enshrine or to give. I don't know how you say a shrine, but a shrine is a place of worship. How do we worship our?
Well, I mean, a shrine doesn't have to be a place of worship. It can be a place like remembrance or reverence or anything like that. You don't have to worship. You don't have to believe in anything super. I used to have a Jim Morrison shrine in my, just because I had a Jim Morrison fetish when I was younger. I still have the stuff from it somewhere. Yeah.
or great thing we did with our government, right? And so that was the idea behind it. And so now the Freemasons went down and put a tunnel in there, or a cave in there.
I am the queen of the pink-haired naughty buddies. Woo! Thank you, guys. Oh, you are, Bree, you're just a good witch. I'm like Cat Curse, the wicked witch. I get to be like Glinda the good witch. Aww.
Have you been to the cave? Have you seen the cave?
Well, I've seen the cave, but I've not been in it. They wouldn't let us go in it. I guess no one can go in except certain people.
They were going to build a presidential library thing back up in there. There's like a room that they were carving out, and they were going to build a... no, I shouldn't say presidential library. It was going to be like they were going to have like bronze statues of each of the presidents in there. Like all of them. There would be the four big heads, and then when you go down to the cave behind there was going to be bronze statues of each president, I believe. That's my understanding of what was originally the concept for it, but it got abandoned for whatever reasons. We can look into those reasons, but I'm sure that they involve Freemasons and the wrath of God. And the Native American war spirits maybe will have some supernatural wonders and whatnot. That's how this stuff goes down, right? I mean, according to the Mary Cruelly show.
So.
And yes, I'm serious. We are going to get to supernatural wonders that take place at Mount Rushmore. We will get there.
Basically, it was closed up, but that's what we're dealing with. And what the Lord revealed to me is that this Mount Rushmore has a direct ley line to Washington, D.C. And he said,
freaking ley lines! Yeah! I'm going to talk about ley lines soon. Don't you worry. We are going to get there. We will get there. Oh my gosh. Ley lines. So much to talk about in that topic.
Basically that as we continue to work in prayer and do the work of the ministry, that God was going to break that connection. Because it's like,
I actually liked Mickey Rourke in Sin City too. He's pretty good in that.
In order to understand the spiritual realm and what we're facing, we have to realize that in order for the enemy to do anything, he needs the agreement of human beings. Like, in order to be empowered,
who keeps knocking on their mic?
The agreement of human beings, and oftentimes that comes in the form of an altar, an active altar that acts as a portal for demonic things. And so that's what we're dealing with. And people that are into that are brought into it because they think they're doing good. Some of them, they think they're doing the right thing. And then we have all kinds of people that are trying to get into native practices, New Age religion. And that's like a hotbed for all that. And so when I go into the Black Hills, I really have to prepare myself because there's a lot of stuff going on. But I just know that God is doing something. Even Donald Trump.
I don't even have to make any commentary on this. Just listen to what we're hearing here. This is somebody making laws. This is somebody writing legislation that we're listening to go on about demonic portals and altars for demonic forces to come through. Freaking the Black Hills of South Dakota, and specifically those structures built or that were modified by masonry, and specifically the masonry around the Mount Rushmore construction.
Trump's landing in the Black Hills at Mount Rushmore, July 4th, when the Governor Kristi Noem put the message out that fireworks are returning to South Dakota. That was a prophetic word. And God spoke to me. He said, when Donald Trump's...
You know what? South Dakota, unfortunately, has a poverty problem. Like a bad poverty problem. But God is like, you know what? They don't have much money, but let them have fireworks. You know, the hunger. I'm not going to worry about hunger. Let's light up the sky with burning fragments of metal instead. That's what the children's need.
Steps foot on this territory, he said, there's something that's going to be done as far as the Constitution.
It's him. It's Joe. Joe, stop tapping on the table or whatever you're doing. It comes through your mic.
It's going to bring a breakthrough.
Yep.
With the
you can see his hand moving.
And I kind of got the feeling that what we're really dealing with in that portal is communism. What we're really dealing with is communism. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're going to rewind. We'll go back 20 seconds. There we go. Being upheld. It's going to bring a breakthrough with the Constitution. And I kind of got the feeling that what we're really dealing with in that portal is communism. That witchcraft altar and those things that are happening in the Black Hills is what we're really dealing with is communism. It's the ideology and all the demonic entities and spirits behind that. Because that's what was brought on the native.
I'm gonna choke myself here. Whew. What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to watch this anymore? I can't stop. There's a portal in the altar of Mount Rushmore. It's in a secret room behind Mount Rushmore. Is a witchcraft art altar that's also a Freemason altar, which is also a Christian satanic altar, which is also a portal. And on the other side of that portal, through that portal, is just communism, a market system. There's a market system on the other side of that portal. A market system within us, or that's constructed on a classless, moneyless society. A classless, moneyless society is through this portal. It is like a Marx portal. Is Karl Marx on the other side of the portal? Like, what? I don't know. What do I do with this? What do I do with this information? These people are straight faces.
People. And that territory belongs to the Native people, but it's not being honored.
She didn't even crack a smile. She didn't even... Nothing. She kept her... She's a professional. I'll give you that, Miss Mary Cruelly. Dr. Mary Cruelly.
So what the enemy is doing is he's using all of that to try to subject all of America to this communist ideology because it's never been rectified. But
Well, and let's go back really quick. So on July 3rd, when President Trump came and they had the fireworks, you were on the stage with President Trump and Governor Kristi Noem. You actually were supposed to have met with him, and then he had to leave quickly. There was a lot of protests, I guess, further down the hill. Is that correct?
yeah, so I had gotten a series of dreams of
Okay, he was supposed to meet. He was supposed to meet with Donald Trump at this Freemason portal. Oh, is that right, Aunt Jer? Too much Botox, she can't smile. She does have very full lips. I will give her that. I don't know if it's natural or artificial, but they're very full.
me actually going in to talk to President Trump in his office. And the Lord kept giving me a message and for him concerning the native people and like how we could move forward basically. And how
I think she's a doctor of divinity or something. Let me see. I'm gonna look her up. I'm gonna give her a fair shake. Dr. Mary Cruelly. LinkedIn profile. Producer and host. I'm not trying to join LinkedIn. I'm trying. Damn it. God, that killed my throat laughing about that. Oh my gosh. Woo. Yeah, look at her IMDb page. Yeah. Doesn't give me. I'm not gonna speculate on what she's a doctor of. I'll just ignore it and just trust that she's being honest with me.
the United States could help the tribes, advance. And so right now, the way that the relations between the United States and the tribes is more, we are living a full-blown socialistic society in the tribes, and we have been. It was the great experiment.
Socialistic? What does that even... Socialistic. Socialistic? His political philosophy movement encompassing a wide range of economic and social systems which are characterized by social ownership of the means of production. Okay, so that's just socialism. Okay, socialistic means relating to socialism. All right. Never heard it using that concept of we're living in a socialistic society. It'd be a socialist society, I would think. I'm going to back up just a little bit.
A full-blown socialistic society that, advance. And so right now, the way that the relations between the United States and the tribes is more, we are living a full-blown socialistic society in the tribes, and we have been. It was the great experiment. And it's still ongoing. So I just believe like someone like Donald Trump with the business background, with his faith in Christ.
With the failed business background, Donald Trump's probably a good his picture should be in the dictionary next to bad businessman. I mean, he's really bad at it. He's never had a successful business, right? Everything he does seems kind of falls on its face. But he's never left holding the check because he hires good lawyers, or at least he used to. He can't seem to get a good lawyer now.
I just think someone like that would be a good person to figure out what we can do to get the people healthy off dependence and get strong economies built up in our tribes.
Now, some people would say, Joe, well, yeah, but now there's many casinos on these lands, and a lot of these tribes are making a lot of money. So I've
there's
seen
there's a handful of tribes that do make money off their casinos, but the rest of the tribes don't. They just make enough to pay their employees and break even.
Well, that's not very socialistic then. If everybody's not making or benefiting from the product of the labor that they're doing, yeah.
And so that's now it just depends on where you live. If you live in California, one of those tribes, I mean, they probably make millions a month each tribal member. But you come out in the Dakotas, you don't have the population. How many farmers and people do we have to go to our casinos? So it's not.
I don't know. I lived in rural Missouri, and there was a casino that did pretty good. It was on the river, but I'm not telling you how to run your tribe or anything. Casinos can make money in a rural setting. People will come from miles and miles around for a casino.
You can't look at one Native American tribe or a group of Native American tribes and try to figure out Native America. You cannot do it.
I understand. Well, let's do this because we only have about 15 minutes left. So the significance of when President Trump came and he had to leave before you were able to talk with him. But let's talk about, the apostolic pastor, tribal leader, Gabriel Medicine Eagle, that he died that day right on the ground. So tell that story about what happened.
First, I want to start by sharing that Gabe Medicine Eagle was one of the first tribal leaders to get a covenant with Israel passed by the tribe, and he took it over.
The covenant of Israel.
And so those were the beginnings of kind of his apostolic work he was doing.
Well, I'm not going to follow this person's passing because there's another thing I wanted to talk about with this channel before we pop out of Creation Watch. So stick around with me. We're going to keep on trucking. This is another interview, and we're going to watch this one from the beginning. We're going to watch the whole thing, though. I don't know about watching her intro. There we go.
Hi, everybody. Dr. Mary Crowley here for Now is the Time. I've got a very important broadcast today with
Oh, her last name was Crowley. That's just delicious.
Gianon. In fact, we were all just in Mount Rushmore a few weeks ago, and we're going to be talking about that and some of the significant things that shifted in the atmosphere. And we're actually going to roll in a picture of Mount Rushmore with a very interesting little cloud that's right over the 4 presidents. So anyway, before we do that, one of the sponsors of the event we did in South Dakota is QE Strong. Let's roll that commercial now, please.
QE Strong.
The quantum effect wipes out pain and allergy
I'm kind of
symptoms in
interested.
less than 30 seconds with 0 drugs. Pastor Dave and hundreds of others have experienced the quantum effect for themselves.
The quantum
Backed by
effect.
scientific research and rigorous lab testing.
Which they will not cite.
Quantum is simply about 2 things. 1, intentions. As a man thinketh, so he is. And 2, renewing your mind with the Word of God. Only QE Strong encodes key intentions and Bible verses about healing onto the small patch. You simply place it on your body each day.
There's Bible verses.
This prayer guide.
There are Bible verses on these patches. Bible verses on patches. Holy crap! This is the craziest stuff I've ever. Oh my gosh! This is this the real life?
I'd read out loud a positive intention and 1 or 2 Bible verses about healing each day. The patch provides the touch, and the prayer guide uses your sight, speech, and hearing to relieve pain and allergy symptoms with the senses God gave you. It even works for people who have suffered decades of chronic symptoms. Are you ready to experience the quantum?
Vague quantum energy with vague symptoms, allergy and pain. Oh my gosh, they have Bible verses on them. You stick them on, and then you read your little booklet of Bible verses. This is a real product, and it's not It's not a coincidence that it's got the Q as its symbol. Are there more products like this? Hell, I think I should add a whole segment to my show about these products that are being sold. My goodness.
Effect? Go to qestrong.com/Mary.
I am so glad I did not skip the advertisement. Holy moly.
Yes, qestrong.com. A lot of people, not only with pain, but allergy sufferers. It's really been helping tremendously. qestrong.com, and
Did you hear the Trumpism? Tremendously.
put in my promo code, which is Mary, right in the middle of America, MERI. Well, anyway, SG, it's good to have you on the show today. You were just such a great addition to the event that we had in Mount Rushmore, June 2nd and 3rd. Interestingly, tomorrow will be, June 23rd, today being the 22nd.
So this is from a couple weeks back.
We're in a very significant shift, and a lot of things are happening. But, in Mount Rushmore, there were some significant things that happened. What do you feel happened and occurred in Mount Rushmore a few weeks ago, SG?
Well, at the end of the day, it was a beautiful congregation of patriots coming together and realizing that, we may have some.
I don't, in God's seed, I don't think you have to agree or disagree with socialism to know that there's no socialism through a demonic portal in the Black Hills, South Dakota. I think we could both agree on that without even having to discuss what socialism is at all. That it doesn't exist through a magical portal. It's a Socialism is not something that is like a tangible substance that can come through a portal.
Social differences. We may have small differing interpretations of details that are here and there, but the core of who we are as we the people is the same. And acknowledging their power in God and the fact that they are sort of God's vessel and God's arm here in this world, right, to affect that change and to change things for the good. What was amazing about that whole event was that you had such a broad perspective of resource offered, as well as a massive amount of coming togetherness as a group and doing things as sort of one body of Christ, right? And that's the example I think that we're all supposed to adhere to the best of our ability and move forward. So at the end of the day, the amount of love and compassion, but also firmness of passion and firmness of drive that was expressed by not only the individuals that came and taught and shared and things like that, but more so than anything, the audience members.
This is so full of platitudes. Are you guys keeping up with this?
Was really quite flooring.
Well, when SG came, there was a lot of, we had Lloyd Brunson that came at the last minute.
Speed it up
107, Ashley had an emergency. He did actually came in on Zoom. And, we had Donna Rigney, Manuel Johnson, Joe Donnell. I mean, we had some powerful people. And then I screened my film, Freedom Cry, Sex Trafficking in America, which I am down in Florida right now. And this coming Saturday, June 24th, I will be in, Fort Lauderdale. We are screening it at the First Baptist Church there in Fort Lauderdale. It is actually on my website, marycrowley.com. We'll maybe pull that up later, but it'll be at 6:30 at night. I have a number of panelists coming in, but Tara Lee Rodas, who is actually the whistleblower, the HHS whistleblower that was working with these unaccompanied minors, and she saw the corruption that was going on right into the Biden administration, and she eventually, they walked her off. I just interviewed her a few days ago, SG. They walked her off, and she eventually had to contact Project Veritas.
Some Pizzagate stuff.
That she actually told us. And so she's flying in from Virginia and is going to be part of that panel. We've got some amazing people in the panel. But let's get back to Mount Rushmore just briefly before we get into
that's what I want to get back
things.
for.
On Sunday, we all went down to Mount Rushmore, and I knew that God had told me that we were supposed to go down there. And for those of you who haven't seen it, it's pretty incredible. They actually have a stage, and there's a flagpole with a flag, and we all met at 2 and walked down to the stage. And we were all in a circle. There's about 50 of us, SG being one of them, and Donna Rigney and a number of us, and we prayed, and we sang the Star Spangled Banner. We were blowing shofars. We were, and then I had read a dream. Donna Rigney had come on my podcast, sometime in April, and I interviewed her, and she said to me, SG, that oftentimes God will send her to areas of the country that God will use her to open a portal. A portal is an area over a region that oftentimes, the demonic
now we got to talk about portals some more.
Realm will get control over. And, it's up to the body of Christ to come and take authority in unity and community and open it. So when we were talking on this broadcast, SG, in April, a woman ended up sending her an email named Diane from Canada. And I read that whole email, pretty much was saying that she was in this dream and there was these two people in the front seat with white hoodies. She then realized that they were angels. And she said she ended up, they were kind of in this car. It seemed like more of a hovercraft type of a car. And they came.
So she dreamed about being in a hovercraft with angels. I have wild dreams too, lady.
Came up to this monument or a rock structure. She realized that it was the Mount Rushmore, and she saw George Washington, and to the left of George Washington was Jesus, only he was the Lion of Judah, and then to the right of Abraham Lincoln was President Donald Trump in the rock. So bottom line is
Trump's up on Mount Rushmore, guys. Right there next to Lincoln. I'm sure he thinks he belongs there. I'm sure he thinks that, being the only president that's ever been indicted twice, impeached twice. Yeah.
Email she sent us, but at the end of it,
he belongs on Mount Rushmore, sure.
She said, I feel that you guys, what you're doing there is going to be very significant and that something really good is going to happen. So I read that. And so it's so interesting because the very next day, Donna Rigney, she literally called me. She said, Mary, you wouldn't believe it. I ran into some people. Her and her husband, Jack, ended up doing a tour. She ran into a man who tried to find us on Sunday, but I guess he missed us and he was walking around the top of the structure. Like, there's kind of a circular sidewalk that goes around it. And he heard some singing of the Star Spangled Banner. And when he looked down, he said he saw us. And then he took a picture. And when he took the picture and posted it on Facebook, people started telling him that what they saw was President Trump in the clouds. So let's put that up on the screen right now if we can, because it's pretty amazing.
This is what we're here for. Ready?
Amazing when you see this picture. It does look like President Trump. And I know you shared it too, right, SG?
I did, actually. I was profoundly surprised at the resemblance when compared alongside a more serious candor, more contemplative President Trump.
Trump's in the clouds.
It was sufficient enough for me to just be convinced, that at the end of the day, the source of all creation, that is God, is going to give us these signs, right? The book tells us that we have signs and wonders to go by, and that we mark different points along the way in the seasons and things like that by what comes in the heavens. And so we know that that is a message board of sorts. I mean, that's pretty well established. And at the end of the day, I think some things are more visible than others, but when it's not much of a stretch and you can actually see the resemblance in that particular moment, I mean, that's the statistical anomaly here that we really have, is the fact that such a cloud should be present at the exact moment that we were out actually, giving.
Such a cloud would be present. Such a clown would be present, maybe.
Homage and support and faith to being one nation under God.
Show it already.
What I particularly liked about that entire ceremony was not only the expression of worship, but also the expression of unity with the native tribes and the native peoples. Sort of understanding that, events have passed. The things of the past are the things of the past, and we are one people now. And we have to take back what is now rightfully all of our land from this power structure that's been around the world, right? And so we know that President Trump has been on board with that for really, since he came down the escalator. He was inaugurated with the military behind him, which was, a very powerful display of solidarity, and I think in some respects a message. So to have that sort of event occur while we were there on that particular day in that time and space, it's just very unlikely. And I'm sorry, but I'm not one, Mary, to believe in coincidences.
Well, we were trying to pull it up on the screen. I don't know what happened. If you can get it up there, Marshall.
There we go.
There it is. You can see the picture is actually circled. And when they showed it to me, I was like amazed, because on my Facebook page, right next to this, you show the actual picture of President Trump that looks just like this. And it was the only cloud in the sky. And whether you believe it or not, I think it's striking to be in a picture of President Trump. And, there's some of you listening or watching, we don't put Trump up. We're not idolizing President Trump. He's just a man that I believe has stood for the country. He's not perfect. He's made some, decisions that, in the past, in particular about the jab, when he initially started telling people, he wasn't forcing people. He said, you should take it.
The jab, by the way, is nutter butter talk for the COVID-19 vaccinations. That's all of them, like the whole myriad of them, are called the jab.
You want. So, some people are questioning that. But in the meantime, we know that President Trump clearly wants to see our country in the border shut down and everything like that.
Trump wants to see the border shut down, but you're talking about getting messages from Canada, my dear. I don't know. This doesn't look like Trump to me. It looks like the Thing from the Fantastic Four, like Ben Grimm, especially with that big unibrow thing he's got going on.
We're seeing. So let's take that off the screen, Marshall. So anyway, that was amazing, regardless, SG. Well, and another thing that was so great, because Joe Donnell, Joe Donnell, who was actually there as well, and he's one of the state, something in my throat. He was one of the state legislators that's working with Governor Kristi Noem, and he actually told me, he said, when President Trump came there in 2020 on July 3rd, there was a man named Gabriel Medicine Eagle that was, when he was younger, he was all set to be a medicine man for the tribes, for the Native Americans, and then he ended up.
This is the same guy they were just talking about. I guess I meant to see this. The divine Trump cloud entity is guiding me to listen to them talk about this Medicine Eagle guy.
Becoming a Christian at a revival, and so they realized that he has a call in his life to be a pastor. So this particular gentleman did a lot around the world globally, and in particular with Israel and building structure between South Dakota, the tribes, and different government officials and things around the world globally. And he was there, and Joe said he was about 10 feet away from Gabriel Medicine Eagle when he saw him fall to the ground and collapse. And he was going to run over there and try to resuscitate him, and he heard the Spirit of God say, no, don't do it. I've taken him. Well, they had to wait. I guess there's protocols when a president leaves. They have to wait 45 minutes before anybody can come in the airspace or whatever. And so when they finally removed Gabriel Medicine Eagle's body,
so this guy died on the ground. And they said not, and people, I guess, didn't come help him because they thought that God said that he was taking him. They heard God say that, and then nobody could come in to try to administer first aid or to resuscitate the gentleman because Trump was there, and it meant that nobody could fly in. They couldn't fly in a helicopter to get the guy out or anything like that. I don't know. This sounds pretty awful to me.
Joe said he was standing right there. There was a lightning bolt that hit the exact spot where his body had been. And then simultaneously, SG, around Mount Rushmore, these lightning bolts started hitting and breaking out of these little fires where the lightning bolts hit. And then all of a sudden there were several fires, and then this rain came and put it all out. It was significant that Gabriel had said earlier in the day when he did a Facebook Live that he had seen everything that he needed to. And I believe that this man really was a profound, he did something profound for the Native people. So that Mount Rushmore was a very sacred rock for the Native American people. And when, I guess there's Freemasons that they put 4 American presidents.
So it's hard to tell, are these people like for Mount Rushmore, or are they against Mount Rushmore? I can't.
But what can I say? All I know is that God significantly did something when we were there that day, including the sign in the clouds above Mount Rushmore. And Joe said that in the spirit realm, they say that the Black Hills, SG, is the heart. And then when you look at it from an aerial perspective and the trees are blowing, it looks like a beating heart. So he said that we shifted something in the atmosphere. A portal was opened, and it was going to have significant effects around the world. So I believe that you coming and many of the other ones that came.
A portal opened above Mount Rushmore now. A new portal, not the demonic one, a Trump one. A Trump portal.
It was very significant to open the heavens like God arise. So thank you for coming. We're doing another one, you guys. We're actually putting the flyer together. SG is going to let us know if he can come. But Juan has confirmed that he's going to come. And anybody who came to Mount Rushmore, this event in Chicago, we're not going to charge, but we are going to have a VIP, which is $77 to meet some of the speakers. We have special seating. But anybody who paid for VIP in Mount Rushmore area.
You all should send me there. Send me to this event. In disguise, I'll go and record.
We'll be able to come and not have to pay. It will be the rain check I talked about in Mount Rushmore. So we'll let you know more about that. So mark your calendars. August 18th and 19th, it will be in Chicago, and we'll let you know more about that, and if SG can come as well. So anyway, so there's a lot going on right now, SG, around the globe in particular.
All right, we're going to end that there. So this was Now is the Time with Mary Crowley. So if you liked me covering this, let me know in the comments down below. This is a new individual that we haven't covered before. So if you found this entertaining, I about laughed my ass off. I would think I've laughed that hard on Life from the Hive in a long, long time. So yeah, I hope that you got a kick out of this too, and that you enjoy what I do here in the Hive. So Creation Watch, we cover all kinds of wild notions, including things like this. And we don't just focus on Christianity, of course. We do other topics as well. We've covered Hindu and what they call it, Vedic science. We've covered Islamic science. We've covered creation science, of course, young Earth creationists. Catholic stuff. We're equal opportunity here. If you have a wild idea about what the nature of the universe is that I think differs with reality, then I welcome it to be debunked right here on Live from the Hive and Creation Watch. So thank you very much for sticking with me. Please remember to come back Friday night for CryptoCorner, and then join us live on Saturday morning with Live from the Hive, and you can be part of this cool audience over here in this general section who's been popping up, and there you go. There they are right there. Yep. Please remember to be kind, take care, and we will see you next time. All right, Live from the Hive team, don't go anywhere. We're not done yet. We still have more show on the way. So, actually a couple of things on the way, and it does include some walking sharks. So, yep, stick with me, and we will dive into those depths. I'll see you over there. All right, hello, and welcome to HiveScience. We're going to get some strange science for you going here in just a second. Thank you for riding the peed with me there. Wanted to do it a couple of times through because it didn't go through right the first time. So thank you so much for sticking with me. And we are going to be looking at some fun science. And I cannot wait to talk about our shark topic. So let's dive right in. This is from HiveScience. This is a year from last year, but it's still a cool video. And it's evergreen as far as I'm concerned when it comes to the topic. Walking sharks caught on video. Astound scientists. This unique ability allows this fish to hunt where other sharks cannot survive. All right. The unusual front fins of epaulet sharks, Hemicilium ocellatum, help them do something that no other shark can do: walk on land. Walking on land, a shark, are you crazy? That I say as I read the article, and you all will learn a little bit as well. On a remote outcropping at nightfall on the coast of Papua New Guinea on May 3rd, 2022, scientists encountered something amazing: a walking shark. Using its fins to drag itself, the diminutive tan and black speckled shark shimmied across the tide pool that contained barely enough water to skim its belly, moving like a lumbering sea lion as it dragged its body across the shores. The creature was an epaulet shark, Hemicilium ocellatum, and it is unique among shark species in its ability to walk on land. Forrest Delonte, a conservationist and biologist, recently shared a rare footage of this visual new species, of this unusual species in a new special for Discovery Channel's Shark Week called Island of the Walking Shark. This is the first time in history one of the Papuan species of epaulets has been documented walking, Galante said on the show. This is so incredible. Scientists think epaulet sharks, a species found throughout the southern coast of New Guinea and northern coast of Australia, evolved the ability to walk because it helped them forage for food in environments where other sharks couldn't survive. All traits are selected for when it allows a species to survive better and eke out an environment where they're safe and can get food, said Gavin Naylor, director of Florida program for shark research at Florida's Museum of Natural History in Gainesville. Epaulet sharks, which grow to about 3.3 feet or 1 meter in length, swim into shallow coral reefs to hunt for crabs and other invertebrates, their preferred food. When the tide goes out, they're perfectly happy hanging out in tide pools and munching on these creatures, but once they're done, they're trapped. Naylor, who was not involved in the television special, told HiveScience what epaulets have learned to do is to climb up into the reef and plop themselves into the next tide pool. Epaulet sharks can haul themselves hundreds of feet or more across dry land, Naylor said. And fin walking isn't the only adaptation that allows them to do so. This species can survive when oxygen is scarce, spending up to an hour on land on a single breath. HiveScience previously reported this ability also helped epaulets thrive in low oxygen waters or tide pools. Epaulet sharks likely evolved the ability to walk in the past 9 million years, scientists reported in 2020 study published in the Journal of Marine and Freshwater Research. That's incredibly fast for sharks. To put that into perspective, hammerhead sharks, one of the youngest shark groups, evolved around 45 million years ago, according to the Natural History Museum in London, and the epaulet sharks are potentially forming a new species at a remarkably fast rate, Naylor said. Because of the shark's unique mobility, small populations frequently become isolated. You might have one that's in one part of the reef, then it decides to go on an Australian walkabout, Naylor said. A river or other geographical barrier might shift just enough to cut off a small group of sharks from the main population. Over time, these populations can become genetically distinct as their genes mutate randomly and adapt separately from other gene pools, Naylor said. One big question about these sharks, that scientists hope to answer is how the species with so little genetic diversity within the population can produce individuals that differ so greatly in their appearance. Patterns in the epaulette shark's distinctive spots vary so widely that no two individuals look exactly alike, and Naylor and other scientists suspect that epaulettes can actually morph their color patterns at will. We have proven it. We haven't proven it, but we think it's happening, Naylor said. So let's go see if we can't catch a glimpse of this. Where's the video? Where's the video? Roll the tape. Ach, is this not going to show us? No. Darn it. Come on. It's all about Shark Week, right? And then we can't even get a video of the shark walking. I don't want to do the Is this the video? It's just an ad. This is the species here. Where's this link going to take us? More about the sharks walking on land, but no video. Oh, here we go. This is the video I was looking for. So let's full screen. There we go. Let's do it. It's only a 2-minute video. Actually, I'm going to mute it because, I mean, they crawl in the water too, right? But yeah, that was pretty cool. So that was our walking shark, and interesting creature. We have one more little topic to talk about today, and it's going to be a little bit of a paleo peek. I'm always going on and on about New Zealand, right? I love the formations and stuff in New Zealand. We are going to be exploring the deep secrets in New Zealand. So, come along with me for Paleo Peak, where we discover the deep secrets of New Zealand and discovering New Zealand's tropical past. There was a sense of expectation as we drove down the broom-lined track towards the Manuherikia River. It was December 2001, and we hoped that exposed layers of sediment in the Bannockburn Formation would reveal a bone or two. Bones that would help us understand what New Zealand may have been like 16 million years ago. We could not have known what treasure troves lay in wait. Manuherikia, the Manuherikia River flows down a valley of the same name in central Otago, bubbling through rifles and pools and other millions of years of history. This was once an enormous lake stretching from Nessaby to Bannockburn and ran further to the Wataki Valley, an area 10 times that of Lake Taupo. It swarmed with life, which thrived there and then perished in the silty lake bed and remained there to this day. A quiet record of creatures unique to New Zealand from a time well before humans. Alan Tennyson of Te Papa Museum, Craig Jones of GNS Science, and Trevor Worthy of the University of New South Wales began surveying exposed sections of gravel, mudstone, and shale along the riverbanks. Within minutes, someone had discovered a bone protruding from the bed of a Miocene sandstone. And in the next hour or two, The 100 meters exposure revealed several more. They were small, brittle, and bleached where they protruded from the sediment. Some were broken by the turbulent course of the past 16 million years. Others were perfectly preserved, the finest details cushioned by the mud as if they were wrapped in tissue paper. These were discoveries beyond the paleontologist's wildest expectations. The bones of creatures long extinct and unknown to science, simply waiting to be dug up. The next day, they headed to another site, affectionately known by paleontologists as Croc Site, because it was from here that a crocodilian bone had been described in 1997, the first and until then the only example found in New Zealand. And these are Nicosuchians, I believe. So they're a specific group of land crocodiles that had zygodontic teeth, which is like serrated, not for grabbing like an aquatic animal, for grabbing and pulling into the water like modern crocodiles generally do. But these guys, they had sharp teeth like terrestrial carnivores, like Komodo dragons, for instance, or what else had dinosaurs had teeth like that too, terrestrial dinosaurs. Where was I at? Okay, the Croc Site. We quarried lumps of the sandstone and put them in our sieves to break down in the flow of the river. Over the course of an hour, the silt washed away, leaving pebbles and a macabre assortment of bone fragments. First bird bones, and then a great flurry of excitement, a tooth, unmistakably crocodilian. That New Zealand once hosted a crocodile of sorts was interesting enough, but here we were all gathered around the sieve, staring at a 16 to 19 million old fragment of history, complete with root and crown, as though it had fallen out of his own mouth. There's a picture of the reconstruction. Little did we know that this find would set us on a journey of discovery that would continue for almost a decade, with expeditions every year. Through the heat and drought and the icy cold of sleet and snow, the Otago Hills offered up a hugely significant trove of fossils, revealing with each dig another small piece of New Zealand's prehistoric past. Paul Schofield of Canterbury Museum and colleagues Susan Hand and Mike Archer from the University of New South Wales have joined the search in recent years, excavating several sites around the St. Bathans township. Initially, the work was funded by the Foundation for Research, Science and Technology, but in recognition of the international significance of the find, grants from the past 3 years have come from the Australian Research Council. The discovery is unique in part because of its age. Most of the bones are thought to be between 16 and 19 million years old in the Miocene period, long after the extinction of the dinosaur. So, this is super interesting. This is going to be kind of a long read, so I hope you guys are in for the long haul. I need to take a quick drink. All right. Think of time as if it were a ruler. In a year was the equivalent of just 1 millimeter. Then 1,000 years would represent a meter. Join me now on a journey, the first half step of which represents the arrival of humans to New Zealand. The 2 meter mark is where the Roman Empire was at its height. The 3 meter mark is where the Polynesians began to push into the Pacific. The 100 meter mark down the track, early humans walked out of Africa into Asia and Europe. Some 4 kilometers on, we reach a point that humans first evolved, and somewhere beyond the 16-kilometer mark, as far as the upper hut of the Wellington, we reach our destination, the Miocene period. The St. Bathans landscape looks very different. A vast lake stretched out to the west and south in front of us, time travelers, and from the north to the west of a range of high, rounded hills framed the horizon. Broad, braided river beds fanned out from these hills, carpeted in white quartz pebbles, and not far off, one of these enters the lake before us. It is late in the summer, and the land is in the grips of drought. The waters have receded. The broad, flat mud flats extend far from the lake's edge. An abandoned channel from the river's delta contains a remnant pool teeming with life. Herons stalk the shallows, kite-like raptors sitting in overhanging palms, and further along, a group of gulls squabble over fish. Seeking the source of this excitement, the time traveler may soon notice beds of dead freshwater mussels, schools of fish swimming back and forth, and galaxid struggling and gulping air in the deoxygenated water. One fish, somewhat bigger than the rest, swims erratically then finally goes belly up. The kites swoop down from their perch and haul it from the water. Here's a reconstruction of the lake bed and all the myriad of life they found. Very avian life. Numerous small waders feed on the exposed mud flats, and out in the water there's a group of large paleolids, the ancient short-legged cousin of the flamingo, like short-legged flamingos. Isn't that wild? Walking along the shore, we come along. And the thing about flamingos that people don't think about too is that flamingos are freaking extremophiles. They live in extreme climates. I will cover that in more detail at some point in the future. So stick around for that as well if you like that kind of topic. Where was I? Walking along the shores, we come to a small embayment where the water is deeper and extends up to a shallow bank. Here, reeds and grasses grow close to the edge, and small flightless rails sneak out about close to the cover. Great flocks of ducks clutter the water. More waterfowl graze on grass on the banks. A slightly longer legged version of the paradise shelduck and a goose. Further back, a stout meter-high bird with a huge recurved bill. An adze bill is ripping rotten wood and bark off fallen trees, searching for large insects or lizards. Extending back from the lake's edge is an open woodland with casuarinas, eucalyptus, palms, and cycads. The grass is dry and sparse. A large nest hangs from an isolated eucalyptus, and soon its owner appears, an eagle with a 2-meter wingspan, flying in carrying a duck to feed two hungry eaglets. Away across the flat and along the riverside, the trees are taller and closer together, and podocarps tower upward. Noisy flocks of parrots feed in the canopy, and nearby large pigeons gorge themselves on fruit. Numerous small songbirds flit about the trees, and the smallest of all, a thimble-sized ball of feathers with no tail, emits a high-pitched squeak. Soon another joins it, and together they rapidly dance over the tree trunk, investigating small cracks in the bark, then disappearing from view. Farther along the raised banks of the river, a clearing allows the sun to warm the forest floor. There, above a well-beaten trail to the riverside, a meter-long crocodilian slumbers in the sun. And off in the undergrowth, a rustle betrays a furry critter the size of a small rat feeding on invertebrates in the leaf litter. It is now 2010. The team excavates and sorts tons of sediment and identifies thousands of bones. We have revealed much about the Paleo Lake Manuherikia and its environs. Geologists have mapped its extent, a staggering 56,000 kilometers, 5,600 kilometers, extending from central. It sounds so much less impressive when I say 5,600. Extending from central Ontario to Nevis Valley and Bannock Burr in the southwest and west, to Naseby in the east, and from the north in Wataki Valley. I'm sorry to any of the indigenous names that I'm butchering here. I do apologize. I don't know the proper Maori pronunciation, so please forgive me. To some way south of Ranfurly. It existed on Zealandia long before it took shape in modern-day New Zealand. This lake was preceded by a broad alluvian plain across which flowed a braided river. Later, the river became impounded with swamps, with diverse rainforest vegetation developed, forming what was to become deep beds of lignite. Then the lake flooded the forest and persisted for millennia while the climate became seasonally dry. The layers of rocks record oscillating water levels. Deep water supported ostracod and fish as shown by their fossils in layers of clay. Then came a period of drying out with cracks forming in the exposed mud. Next, a flood swept through, laying a veneer of sand, small pebbles over the other deposits. It carried with it the bones of dead fish and shells from the dried channels, bones of dead birds and other animals, even shells of tiny mollusks from the nearby shrublands. Some of these were swept back and forth in the shallow littoral zone of the lake, and some accumulated a patina of calcite laid down by microscopic algae which lived on the bones. Soon deep water returned, and in time it buried everything in sediment. This was a cycle repeated numerous times over millennia. In some places, the layer of rocks contained fossil accumulations as rich as any found in the world. Often they are densely spaced as one large bird bone per 30 square centimeters, but it's the small bits that fascinate us. We wash the sediment, wash it again, and after it dries, it's sorted under a microscope, half a teaspoon at a time. In one quarry, we have excavated 110 square miles, putting the entire 10 to 15 centimeter thick target layers through this process, amounting to some 10 tons of concentrate. That's a lot of sifting these folks are doing. I gotta hand it to them. It has been long and laborious process, but never boring. Placing a teaspoon of processed sediment on a tray and peering at it through a microscope engenders a huge sense of excitement and anticipation. You are the very first person to look at these fossil bones, which are up to 20 million years old. Every teaspoon has the potential to reveal a new species or more parts of one that was already found. We had spent weeks searching through muck before it revealed itself, a beautiful, sparkling little transparent transparent mammal tooth with all its cusp and roots. 20 minutes later, another appeared. Weeks elapsed, and doubts crept in that we were missing them. Then, after sprinkling a few grains of sediment into a petri dish, grains that looked no different from the last few million, there, as clear as a bell, was yet another beautiful tooth. But teeth are not the only gems. Perfectly preserved bird and lizard bones appear under our microscopes, and tiny, exquisite snails barely 3 millimeters across. Each gem is carefully picked up with leaf tweezers sealed in a gelatin capsule like those vitamins are stored in and labeled. To become lazy to miss a single tiny tooth may be the difference between finding a new species or remaining forever in the dark. The haul so far has been impressive. It contains large hyoid clams, freshwater mussels, and small freshwater gastropods that we expected. But the small 2 to 4 millimeter wide land snails still retain color within their shells. We're a surprise. Fragments of yabby buttons, the calcium deposits from shell changing, and even a couple of examples of stomach grinding plates attest to the presence of freshwater crayfish, much like those found in the waters of Otago today. But we are vertebrate paleontologists, so bones were what we were wanting. And bones by the millions were what we got. Fish account for 99.99%, upteen thousands of them, and many more thousands of otoliths, calcium carbonate structures from within their heads. We now know that these fish derived from several kinds of bullies similar to those in the New Zealand streams today, smelt in several kinds of galaxids. Famous as adults of the New Zealand delicacy whitebait, surprisingly, not an eel remnant has been found. But for every 100 or so fish bones, we got a fragment of something else. And 1 in 100 of those is a bit we can identify. After 9 years sorting, we have identified many species. We have 3 kinds of frogs. Reptiles are represented by lizards, a couple of species of skinks, and geckos, much like those of today, and tuatara-like animals as well. But we can also be sure that long ago, New Zealand was not a safe place it is today. It harbored crocodilian creatures up to 3 meters long, now known from many bones and teeth. But birds dominated this fauna. There are more than 35 kinds in the fossil record, but as of yet, only about a dozen have been named. We have moa, or at least moa ancestors that were large and flightless, represented by eggshells and a few scraps of bones. The eggshells hint at a bird every bit as big as the little bush moa, Animalecteryx, that was present in New Zealand immediately before the arrival of the first humans. 8 species in 6 genera of waterfowl, including ducks, shell ducks, and geese, combined to make St. Bathans the richest known site of Miocene waterfowl fauna in the world. The flamingo-like paleolids are represented by a single species, unlike those found in Australia at a similar time. There is a single species of heron of a new primitive lineage, the first and oldest for Australasia. Raptors are represented by acipterids, 2 kinds of eagles, and a kite-like raptor, though no falcons or owls have yet been revealed. A large guiform, a crane-like bird, probably the ancestor of Aptornis, The weird adbill known from the Holocene was represented by vertebrae, a part femur, and a phalanx. In the same order, but of a diminutive size, are at least 2 species of small rail, one of which was flightless and barely larger than a sparrow. Even seabirds have turned up. There are bones of diving petrels of a form very similar to those living now, and doubtless they would have fed at sea during the day and nested on inland hills at night as they do now. Other water birds include gulls and waders, somewhat like the dotterels and sandpipers that frequent lake margins today. Of more terrestrial birds, at least 2 kinds of pigeons, 3 parrots, an owlet nightjar, and a swiftlet, and 4 or more passerines ranging from magpie-like birds to diminutive wrens existed about the lake. Many of these birds have yet to be described in detail. Most surprising of all, the mammal bits. The terrestrial mammals, dubbed the waddling mouse, was a find of huge international significance. About the size of a small rat, it is neither a placental nor marsupial mammal. And so, like Leoptomatid frogs and tuataras, represents the last survivor of a lineage that died out elsewhere many millions of years ago. So just to pause from reading here and express how significant this is, to find a group of organisms within the recent the Miocene, that's not too long ago, it's 20 million years ago, that is not a placental mammal, that's not a monotreme, and not a marsupial. So marsupials and placental mammals are the therians. I believe this sucker is supposed to be therian too, but we'll get there. Just hang in there. We're going to talk more about this. We have several bits of this intriguing critter now, but not the molars that mammalian paleontologists crave. We do, however, have more than a dozen teeth and bones of several kinds of bats. One is the mystacinid, a short-tailed bat ancestor, revealing the long heritage of New Zealand's special bats. Another is of an entirely new family, unlike any in Australia. On each field trip, we collect new, exciting mammals. 2009 saw one of the largest, the first bones of the Aptornis ancestor, and one of the smallest, representing an intriguing new family of birds. New Zealand has long been considered the land of birds. Now we know for the first time that this was the case in the Miocene period too. But back then there were quite a few differences. We had a terrestrial mammal, whereas none survive today, and a crocodilian, not just a nipper either. Other clues as to what has happened are seen among the species that we have lost. The ancestral flamingo, the swiftlets, are strictly tropical today, and the plant community, the story is the same. Eucalyptus, casuarinas, cycads, and palms, and a multitude of laurels have all deserted New Zealand for warmer latitudes. From the time of the Paleo Lake Manuhirakia, the Earth cooled 8 degrees Celsius during a period called the Middle Miocene Transition, 14 to 13 million years ago. On top of this, the Pleistocene glaciation over the subsequent 10 million years brought another 5 degrees Celsius drop in temperature, rather too much for New Zealand's tropical heritage, which was all but eliminated. Nevertheless, many of the animals we had in the Miocene, the frog, tuatara, skink, gecko, and many of the birds, owlets, nightjars, shelducks, pigeons, and diving petrels, were allied to those surviving today. None of these species exist in Australia, and few even share the same genus, as an exception being the Paleolotus, which was globally distributed. Even the waterfowl, which are relatively well described and include at least 8 species, were all different from those then in Australia. Clearly, the fauna 16 to 19 million years ago was already very much Zealandian, reflecting a long, unique heritage dating back to our physical connections with Gondwanaland. Or so, not Gondwanaland, sorry, with Gondwana. We have lost many of our heritage taxes since, allowing a few Australian immigrants to arrive, and evolution has seen the replacement of many other species, such as waterfowl and rail and Mystocynid bats, but Zealandians we remain. Yeah. Those that survived the ever-descending temperatures, the retreat of the subtropical forest, and the raising of the mountainous landscape we know today, became masters of adaptation and now stand out among animals elsewhere on Earth by their appearance, habitat, and behavior. As much as New Zealand is unique for the fauna we have lost, it is also famous for what has remained. This is a nation of survivors which have been encouraged by circumstances to do things somewhat differently than elsewhere. The survivors of St. Bathans were adaptable and unspecialized, qualities which have lived on in the culture and psyche of New Zealand society that follows. There we go. That was the St. Bathans formation. A little bit of a breakdown. They had they didn't go into detail, but the bats they're talking about, my Mystocinids, they are more terrestrial. There's actually surviving descendants of them. They're called burrowing bats because they live in holes in the ground. They'll use old burrows of other animals and things as hideaways too. And they're very terrestrial. They actually have a flap that they fold their flight membrane underneath so that they can move around on the ground. And they're very skilled at terrestrial locomotion, which is not common in a lot of bats. So very cool. And again, about this mammal that was found there, the latest surviving member of this weird unknown group of organisms. It's fascinating. Early Moa ancestors. These are the articles that I had set up and primed for my debate with Matt Powell that never came to fruition. I wanted to debate evolution using New Zealand as my flagship, and it never came to fruition. Unfortunately, but that's how things go. All right, and I did promise that I would show you guys I can actually play this. Oh, that didn't sound good, did it? No, my thing hit across there. So yeah, I'll just anyway, yes, I play mandolin. Actually, I'm gonna put it right here. Seems like it'll be safe. Seems like it'll be safer over there. All right, that's about all I got for you. Thank you for joining me live from the Hive. Please don't forget to like the video down below. I got 28 thumbs up so far, so that's pretty good so far. But I think we can get Copperhead Road, not Cottonhead Road. Yeah, that's the first song I learned to play on mandolin. Yeah. All right. Please remember to be kind. Take care. And we will see you next time. Oh, almost forgot. Goodness gracious. Almost forgot. Yeah. About this. Don't forget to do this. Come over here to Vandalia 1998. Talking Time with Caffeine. How much longer we got? I think it's 4 hours. 4 hours. Yeah, it's at 5 p.m. Central Standard. Come on, join us. We're going to talk about WASP and stuff. It'll be fun. All right. Now, as I was saying, be kind. Take care. And we will see you next time.